Hey, going? Welcome to this YouTube version of episode 18 of my podcast for gay men, Connection Over Coffee with the Loneliness Guy. I'm Phil McAuliffe. I'm the Loneliness Guy, and just want to say thank you so much for joining me through YouTube. It's awesome to have you here. So if you've got any questions for me, got any comments or suggestions or anything like that, please feel free to put a comment below, or if you don't want the world to see it, send me an email to connect@lonelinessguy.com. So yeah, the email address is in the description to this video. All right, how about we just crack into it? Hey, it's a huge topic. It's just bloody enormous. So yeah, it's bear with me because things could get a little real. All right, let's do it. Pardon me. All right, let's go. Hey, welcome to Connection Over Coffee with me, Phil McAuliffe, the Loneliness Guy. Today we're going to have a talk about friendship and ask the question and answer the question, what is friendship? But before we go on, this podcast is all about destigmatizing loneliness and promoting authentic connection for gay men globally. It contains content relating to the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of gay men. If that's going to offend you or offend anyone in earshot, now's the time for you to move on. So with all of that said, how about you go and grab us a table and I'll go get the coffees sorted. So if you were listening to the podcast version of this, you'd hear a coffee machine going before I then launch into it. Here you go. If you are returning to listen to another episode or watch another episode of this podcast, I want to say welcome back. It's awesome to share another coffee with you. And if this is the first time that you've joined me for coffee and connected with me over coffee, I want to say welcome, a huge welcome to you. And I want to just spend a moment to recognize that you may have just wrestled within yourself with the awkward and difficult thoughts and feelings that you might be feeling loneliness as a gay man. I recognize that the simple act of pressing play can have us wrestling with those uncomfortable thoughts and feelings, and rest assured that you have just taken a step in the destigmatization of loneliness, not least of which is that stigma of loneliness that you have in yourself. I recognize the courage and the bravery that simply pressing play may have taken you. And so I want to say that I'm proud of you and how grateful that I am that you're here for episode 18 of this podcast, Connection Over Coffee with the Loneliness Guy. Now, this is a really important topic for us gay men, because friendship is a source of connection, source of love, support, and indeed a source of belonging for us gay men, for humans in general, but specifically for us gay men. Because if you have a family who does not accept you for being gay, does not accept you for your sexuality, your friends can form that important source of unquestioning love, support, connection, and belonging that a family would traditionally, normally expect to fill. And so friendship for humans is important, but for many gay men, particularly if our sexuality is not accepted by our families, then that it's important to recognise the importance of friendship to us. Now, you might be wondering, you might be thinking at this point, it's like, look, I'm just going to listen to it. I've got plenty of friends. I've got so many friends, but I'm struggling within myself to reckon with this void, this emptiness that might actually be loneliness within me. And I want to say well done on being really perceptive within yourself. Because one of the ironies of loneliness is that we can feel that we don't allow ourselves to accept that we're lonely because we have lots of friends. We are surrounded by people. And indeed, one of the things that I really want to sort of clarify around this topic and just spend a few moments on clarifying the topic is I'm not talking about the number of friends that you have on social media. That's on like one end of the friendship spectrum, let's call it. And so you could have hundreds, indeed thousands, of friends and followers on various social media platforms. And you may or may not know who those people really are. They just think that you're pretty good. Kind of, there's something about you that they like, so they find you and follow you. That's on one end of the spectrum. That's like the quantity end of the spectrum. And then you might get through to people who you know directly where you live in the world, and you know their name, you know what they look like and roughly what their job is and where they live and what they do. You know a little bit about their story, but you know enough to say hello on the street. And then, as a gay man, it might sort of continue along the friendship spectrum, and you might have friends with benefits. You might have a fuck buddy or two who you know quite well, but not really too much below the surface, mentally and emotionally. I mean there. Then all the way through to you might have a group of friends who, you hang out together, you go out for dinner, you go to the movies, I don't know, you go to clubs, whatever it is, you play sport together, whatever it is, if there's a common interest there and you know a little bit more about each other's life. And then there's the core group of people who I call, for want of a better term, the real friends, the people who you feel that closest, you feel the closest to, you feel like those really strong bonds of friendship. And it's this group that I'm talking about when I talk about friendship. So we sort of start that one end of the spectrum on quantity, and then we go through to quality. I'm talking about quality friends, people who know you and with whom we can feel more comfortable being physically, mentally, and emotionally ourselves. So if you are a gay man who is experiencing some loneliness or has experienced it in the past or is going through experiencing some loneliness at the moment, and that loneliness might actually be in the moment going on chronically. You might be feeling chronically lonely, but loneliness is your default state. Me talking about quality friends and quantity friends might just seem like such an alien concept, because it's like, Phil, I've got no friends at all. I feel so utterly and completely alone. I hear you. I really do hear you. We're going to get into that a little bit into in the content of this conversation, of this episode. But I want to say that you may actually need to just not necessarily keep an open mind, but open your mind, open your your heart and your soul, if I can say it that way, to recognize that there likely are people who are wanting you to be you in the world, and they're your people. You might not know who they are yet, but they are there. And the other thing that I want to keep I ask you to keep in mind is that when and it goes back to that point that I made before about how we can feel that we have so many friends but not know anybody. I want to remind you about my 3 pillars of connection. And the first pillar of connection is connection to self. The second pillar of connection is connection to those most important to us, which I'm going to say that that's our friends as well in that. And then the third pillar is about connection to the community. Now, when we talk about connection and loneliness and the need for authentic, real connection into the world, we can immediately leap to doing work, making changes under pillars 2 and 3. My whole point of my work here at the Loneliness Guy is to say that we need to be authentically connected, really, genuinely, 100%, embrace who we are, the light, the dark, the positive, the negative, everything about ourselves. If we are to make the connections outside of ourselves in pillars 2 and 3 meaningful, real, authentic, and that kind of soul-nourishing, life-sustaining type of connection that we absolutely need and absolutely crave. So the first step in talking about any kind of connection outside of ourselves, so with others and with our communities, we need to appreciate and acknowledge that perhaps we need to be authentically ourselves. And not perhaps, it's definitely. I'm saying perhaps out of politeness. But definitely we need to be connected with ourselves if we are to get that quality connection that is external to us. So, something to consider right now is, are you being yourself? Are you allowing to be yourself? Do you feel that you can be yourself when you are around your really close friends? Or can you be yourself in your community? 100% all, amazing humanity, like the personification of amazing humanity that you are, that is within you. Can you be you when you engage in the world? Can you be you when you are within yourself? Because if we aren't being ourselves, how can we possibly expect other people to interact with us on a friendship level? Because if we aren't being authentically ourselves, we're not authentically being ourselves with others. So when we are projecting an image, when we're playing the game where we think we need to act in a way that other people think that we need to be, and if that's confusing, it is confusing, but we do it we are doing it anyway. We are playing this game where expectations are left unsaid, and we're making suppositions and hypotheses about how we should act in front of certain people in various circumstances. And it's freaking exhausting, isn't it? So it's little wonder that and the longer that we play that game, the longer that we play that part, that character, the projection of an image, the more tiring it is and the more disconnected we get with ourselves. So we need to stop. We need to stop and reflect on, as I've just said, how connected we are to ourselves. And when it comes to connection, it's simple, really. To feel that we are authentically connected to ourselves to those most important to us and to our communities, we need to feel that we are seen, that we are heard, and that we belong. And if we don't feel that we as an individual are seen, we as an individual are heard, we will always hustle to feel that we belong. We will look for that belonging in lots of different ways, in lots of different places, and in many cases in ways that do not serve us. And we can do this even with our friends. We can feel that we have to have that projection of having all of our shit together, that we, must show that our life is perfect, that we've got the great body, the great friends, have the great sex life, have the car, the apartment, the job, the holidays, the whole 9 yards, to feel that we belong, so that we're accepted. And of course, you're an awesome human. You don't have it all together. I don't have it all together. And that's the beauty of us. That's our value, is that we are human. And depriving ourselves means depriving others of that humanity, and depriving ourselves and depriving others of those real connections with us. So the hustle, keeping in mind the hustle, is really important, and reflecting for a moment on why and how you're hustling, and perhaps why you're hustling, particularly if you are struggling to feel that you belong. So you're trying to be seen, you're trying to be heard, so you feel that you belong. And until that happens, until we show up in the world, and this is terrifying. Let me just, it's easy to say. Oh my God, it's so easy to say, but it's really, it's like our life's journey. I was trying to think of something that wasn't so wanky then, but it really is kind of like our life's mission, our life's purpose, to keep to figure out who we are, and then put ourselves out there, and then keep on evolving and finding more about ourselves to put out there. Because when we put ourselves out there, we will attract the people who we need in life. They will respond to that, whatever we're putting out there. And, I've heard it, referred to as our energy and our vibe and essence, whatever it is. But people will respond when they see authentic you, when they see the authentic you. And I guarantee you there are people in your life right now, if you are feeling that you are alone, if you feel that you are lonely, there are people in your life right now who are waiting for you to show up as you. There is you within yourself. You are waiting for yourself to show up in the world. And as I said, that's terrifying. But trust me, you aren't alone. I have been where you are. I am where you are. I'm still in the business of living life. But I know how hard it is, and how exhausting, not hard, it's just exhausting to realize that you're interacting with the world through this mask, and the world knows you. Your friends, family knows you through the mask, and the sheer terror that even thinking about removing the mask and having the world engage with you, and you engage with the world from without a mask to protect us, is terrifying. But you don't do it alone. You really don't do it alone. I've got people in my corner or on my site who can be in your corner. People like Mike Campbell, people like Michael Diorio, who provide coaching services to help you dig into finding out who you are. And they do brilliant work. And I also have a site on Facebook for premium subscribers of The Loneliness Guy, which for $9.95 Australian dollars a month, which is about $6.50 US, you can come along and show up on into a private Facebook group that is exclusive for premium subscribers of The Loneliness Guy. And in there, we engage in a real way. We ask for support. We give support to each other as we go about the business of living our life and trying to put our authentic selves into the world. And we do this through Facebook, like written messages, and also where we've got monthly Zoom chats, which is just a chance to have a bit of a chat and a bit of a natter about a common topic like friendship. So with all of that said, this episode follows a blog post that I published on my site, thelonelinessguy.com, which is called What is Friendship? And I published it on Thursday, the 26th of November 2020, and there's a link to that blog post. I invite you, as always, to go and have a read of that. Go and spend a few minutes in your day reading and reflecting. But there's some questions from that I devised to, help you learn or realize that or appreciate if you are showing up in your relationships with your friends in a way that might be called hustling. Are you hustling for approval? So and therefore hustling to be seen, hustling to be heard, and then critically the hustling to feel that you belong. Because it's one thing for me to say, are you hustling? And you go, oh, I don't even know what hustling means. I don't know. Not hustling, next, move on. Because I hustle. My name's Phil. I hustle. I hustle to be seen. I hustle to be heard, and I hustle to feel that I belong. I have hustled in the past. Indeed, that's how I thought I would make how I thought I would make friends, because that's how society teaches us to make friends, and it's what we do in our adolescence, in our teenage years, and which is why high school, the ages of our teenage years, is so awful, because we are constantly trying to figure out where we fit in. And we edit, we adapt, we mold ourselves to fit into an image of what other people think that we must be. So if other people think that we must be in a certain way, then we must act in that certain way. But if that's obviously, it's a self-evident truth when I say it out loud now, obviously that's a really good way to become disconnected with who you are. Because at that time, you're trying to work out who you are, and rather than trying to work out who you are, you're trying to become so many other things. You're trying on so many clothes. Indeed, you're putting masks on that, somewhere like we get lost at the time that we actually really need to find who we are. So we continue that. I continued that well into adulthood, and I'm not going to say that I'm holier than thou, and no, that would be completely me spinning an absolute yarn and bullshitting you, frankly. I don't want to do that. This is a place where we can just be unashamedly human, unashamedly ourselves. And I still find myself hustling for approval, hustling to feel that I belong. And before I go into these hints and tips, I wanted to say that this blog post that I published on the 26th of November, What is Friendship?, was actually really triggering for me. I had to practice so much self-care, and which involved like lots of cups of tea, and there was some serious procrastination going on, because I was reliving some really traumatic, I guess we could call it, experiences in my life where I had tried my best to fit in, and then was told that I was too much, and indeed, have been told recently that I'm too much. And that's actually really triggering to me, and we're going to get into that. But I just want to let you know that I am not as pure as the driven snow. I'm well in the trenches with you as we all collectively work out how to give the world, how to give ourselves. So let's have a look. If this was, I don't know, like Letterman or some kind of show, like, you know, one of those late night shows where we talked about, here are the 7 signs of that you might be hustling for attention, not attention, but hustling to feel that you belong, then let's do it. Let's do those signs. So here's a question for you. Before I get into the question, I just want to say that, you know, we just need to reflect in taking up this invitation. My invitation to you is to simply reflect. And that reflection might be mental, it might be actually writing down, it might be, you know, something kind of emotional that you feel within yourself, and talking to someone, you know, whether it's someone directly in your life, it's talking to me, and then let's have a chat. But we need to pay attention to our words, thoughts, and feelings, words, thoughts, and actions on this. On these points. All right, I'm getting to the points. The question 1, it's like, do you feel the need to be on, in inverted commas, when you're with friends or with a certain friend? Because if we feel that we need to be on, then that is a really sure sign that we are needing to play a role, that we are fulfilling expectations that we've placed on ourselves or have been explicitly placed on us from others, that we need to be a certain way when we are engaging with people, so friends or otherwise. Do you feel that you need to be on? If you're not feeling all that well, do you still need to put on a happy face? Do you still need to play the joker? Do you still need to play, I don't know, like the intellectual, whatever it is? Do you need to play a role? If you do need to play a role, then you're not being authentically you in that moment. Is the next point, is the relationship that you have with a friend or with a group of close friends, I guess a one-trick friendship? I had the expression a one-trick pony in my mind. But is it a one-trick friendship? Is it something that was based on a shared experience that happened in the past, and the relationship grew from that shared experience? And sometimes that shared experience could be a traumatic incident, could be, you know, a joint response to something that was really stressful. And those bonds can be amazing. But it's not often the exclusive reason for maintaining a friendship. It's something that quite obviously brought people together, and you felt that connection in that moment and in the immediate aftermath. But if it's been 15, 20 years, and I'm thinking particularly of like high school friends, and you don't have much in common except for what happened to you in your past, that's probably an indication there of a one-trick friendship. Where you don't feel that you can evolve, or, you know, as Callan Brecken said in his episode 16 of this podcast, you know, the crabs in a bucket pulling you back in to how things were back when you were in high school or in university or whatever. Is it a one-trick friendship? This is hard, this next one, for people who are feeling lonely, and that are you the only person in the friendship relationship initiating contact? I'll say this very simply: reciprocity is important. If you are the only person who is reaching out and initiating contact, then, and I saw this from one of my followers on Instagram a few weeks ago, sent me something saying that like something like a meme or a picture on Instagram saying that stop texting and see how many dead plants you've been watering. And then that got me thinking on this. I'm not entirely a fan of that reasoning, but I think it's a point around reciprocity that I'm wanting to make. And this is hard because if we are lonely, we know that we need to reach out and ask for help and support. But if we are always reaching out for, not necessarily for help and support, but to say hi or, to tee up, a call or a chat or, either in person or using technology, if we're the only people who are doing that and we're organizing everyone and everything for that to happen, the question there is that ever reciprocated? And that is really hard for someone, for the lonely person. So for the person who has loneliness in their soul, because we're reaching out, but if no one sort of reaches out to us, then that there's a lack of reciprocity there. Which stems into the next point is, are you on each other's VIP lists? And taking that point about reciprocity just a step further, and digging into that a little more, it's important that we recognize that busyness is everywhere. It's so just ubiquitous, and we celebrate busyness. Indeed, it is like socially acceptable, at least in times past, so pre-COVID, to answer, how are you going? It's like, oh, I'm really busy. I'm so busy. And it became like a busy off to see who was most busy. And if we weren't busier than the other person, then we felt bad about ourselves. Well, we're going to be digging into busyness as its own topic in upcoming content on the Loneliness Guy. But for now, busyness is a curse. We need to stop celebrating busyness. We need to stop exalting people for and thinking they're awesome for being so busy. Busyness is an absolute curse, and busyness kills connection. Busyness kills connection. And busyness is a choice. We can choose to not be busy just as much as we choose to be busy. So with that in mind, this is the crucial point about being on each other's VIP lists. There is always time for who and what is important. So if your relationship with a really close friend is truly important, you prioritize it. They prioritize time with you. And it might not be like every waking moment of every day, but it's something that, they go, I haven't actually chatted to this person. I haven't chatted to Phil for a month. I better call him. And, I really want to see what's going on with him. I'll reach out and say hi. You need to be on each other's VIP lists. Because, again, if not, it might be a sign of the absence of reciprocity there. And flagging that busyness as a topic that we'll be going into in greater detail in future content. This next point was the thing that triggered me. So I'm just going to take a moment here just to center myself, because this is actually really difficult for me, and so I'm honoured that you're here now and listening to this. But I wonder, listener and viewer, have you ever been told to, I guess, like if you're upset and you're about to go out, being told by friends to turn it up, like turn the mood up, become like turn that frown upside down, and go out into the world with a smile? Or have you been told that, you're too intense. Maybe just dial it down a little bit. And I certainly have. And part of the triggering and the mental and emotional support that I gave myself, and I reached out for help and support from those closest to me, including Jeff, my awesome partner. Part of that was numerous occasions throughout my life where I have been told that I'm too much, and being told to dial it down. And by that, it's like, just, edit yourself a little bit. And it might not have been explicitly meant this way, but the seed that was planted externally, I grew internally, and I made it mean that I needed to edit myself so I fitted in and I made friends. And I wonder if that's something that you have done too, have done and are doing right now. I wanted to say this really clearly. I'm done. I'm so done with being told that I'm too much. If I'm being told that I'm too much, and if I'm being told that I need to dial it down, that I'm too intense, that very quickly now, after a fair bit of work, is like, I refuse to apologize for that now. If me being me is too intense for you, then maybe I'm not, maybe like we're not going to be friends. I'm done dialing it down, because when that it in dialing it down is dial me down, dim my light, cover myself to make another person feel comfortable about themselves. If me showing up in the world as me makes another person feel uncomfortable, they're not my person. They're not for me. And I'm going to say that was far easier to say out loud than it was to actually experience within me. Because as someone who experiences loneliness, I, want to be accepted. I want to be able to make friends and them to go, Phil, you're amazing. Let's hang out, be lifelong friends, and I don't know, do the equivalent of braid each other's hair and sing Kumbaya forever and, Christmas cards for life kind of stuff. I want that. And when I see other people having it, I get so intensely jealous and just going, well, maybe if I was more like that, then other people would like me. And now when I hear that within myself, I'm like, nah. I get that. You get that, listener, in your life when you show up as yourself. And if someone is telling you that to dial it down or dial it up or to be anything more or less than who you are in that moment, that person's not for you. They have kindly outed themselves as not being worthy of your awesomeness. And isn't that really, that's it, both at once really empowering, but also really terrifying as well, isn't it? But I'm done. I'm really, really, really done, because it really hurts when I have changed myself and edited myself and perhaps even changed how I spoke or how I dressed or however I showed up in the world and showed up in that relationship to be accepted, to then not be accepted. It's like, oh God, what the fuck am I meant to do? How am I meant to do this? How do I make those real lasting friends that everyone else seems to have? And I've worked it out. I just need to be me. I need to be me. Listener, viewer, you need to be you. And anyone who tells you to be more than yourself or less than yourself is not for you. And I know that's really hard for the lonely mind and the lonely soul to accept. But you're not alone on that. You are enough right now, just as you are. I am enough as I am right now. You are worthy. I am worthy of feeling seen, of feeling heard, and that we belong. Okay, so with that point, being asked to edit ourselves out of the way, and you now reflecting on times when you've been told to dial it up or dial it down or change this, or why do you speak so funny, why do you act so camp, or whatever it is, and you've edited yourself, we'll move on to another sign perhaps that you're showing up inauthentically in a friendship relationship. And that's about the hustle to keep someone's attention. And that hustle can look like concocting dramas and that might be actually subconsciously concocting dramas. But if we've all got those friends probably right now where we've got there's something always going on, and always bringing people around them, and that might actually be you as well. That there's a crisis, and we need our people around us to help us. And of course, there's good friends do that. But good friends, will do that regardless of there being a drama or not. And that hustle to keep attention can also be about gossiping about other people who people know, like the group knows in common. And the connection that feeling that we feel when we're gossiping in the middle of a good bitch session about someone, it feels like connection, but it's really not. It's not connection, it's cancerous, because we know that if we're talking about someone else, that other people are talking about us as well, and nobody likes to be the subject of gossip. But if we are coming up with elaborate ways to keep attention, that's a sign that we are showing up as something more or less than who we are in that moment, and hustling to belong. The next one is about being the nice guy. And the nice guy is actually really hard because it's how socially we can be conditioned to be a friend. And indeed, the awesome Dr. Maya Angelou is famously quoted as telling her son, the best way to have a friend is to be a friend. And that's awesome advice, and it's very true. But if we are constantly showing up, or frequently showing up to help out, to offer ourselves and our awesomeness, and it's not being asked, if we're the first to offer, someone who we may have just barely met, a trip to the airport, or moving house, or something that he puts us out there and shows that we're there for them, but we don't really know them, we could be falling into nice guy territory and looking to make ourselves indispensable in that friendship. And again, this does look like actually being a friend, but if we are going into default nice guy and not allowing ourselves to be guy, the guy, nice, evil, whatever it is, allowing ourselves to be ourselves in that relationship, then we are hustling for acceptance. And in a way, coming up to the last point that I wanted to share with you is around boundaries and the definitions. And for me, as someone who experiences loneliness and got curious about why, and then got curious about loneliness as a topic, I see this within myself all the time, and I dare say that you will see it in yourself. Because it's one thing to say that we need boundaries and to develop boundaries, and say that we will engage with the world with our awesome, authentic selves all the time. And then we do that and we have these conversations, which I have all the time and I love them, where I feel the spark of connection because I have actually showed up in that moment as me, and they've showed up. And I felt that spark of connection where I felt seen, where I felt heard, and I felt that I belong. And for me, that spark of connection is everything. And I could be very quick. I can be very quick to allow someone into my VIP box. And sometimes the relationship, the other person, is not ready to be in my friendship box. And indeed, thinking back, sometimes those people in those friendship box that I've allowed in a bit too soon on reflection have been the people that say, whoa, you're so intense, you need to dial it down. And that is a sign where, we could be perhaps eager to allow people in before that kind of organic sharing and development of a relationship. So I guess patience. This one's all about showing patience and letting the awesomeness of other people reveal themselves and showing and beginning to show up, which patience can be very difficult. If we recognize that we're lonely, we need to get that connection with others. So it's about building and maintaining boundaries and knowing that others earn the right into our VIP boxes. Okay, we're getting to the end of the chat now. There's a couple of more things that I want to say, particularly going back to the beginning of the chat about quality over quantity, and we're focusing much more on the quality friendships rather than the hundreds or thousands of friends, in inverted commas, that we have on social media, but focusing on those quality friendships that we have. And I've got three questions that I want to pose to you, and I put these in the blog post if you don't get them. But the three questions go to helping you identify those in your life who could actually be called like real and close friends in the spirit that I'm meaning the term friendship. And the three questions are: number one, how many people in your life and who are there for you when it's inconvenient for them? Number two, we're reversing it. How many people in your life are you there for when it's inconvenient for you? And number three, who makes both lists? The people who make both lists are gold. And if you've not told them about how much they mean to you, please do that right now. That stuff is connective gold. And if there is nobody in who has made that joint list, I invite you to work towards developing, not work towards, but develop the courage to put your authentic self out there. And I know it's terrifying, but that fear holds us back, and we're going to get into that. Fear of judgment, etc., that can hold us back. And I get it; it's real, and it's easy for me to say, just put yourself out there. And I'd be full of shit if I was to say, just put yourself out there, because I know it's hard. But if there's no one on your list, honest to goodness, no one on your list, please take that as a sign that there's work to be done. And on the other end of the spectrum, if there's more than 5 people on that list, I'm going to invite you to consider whether you're oversharing. You're allowing so many people into your life. And oversharing is actually a form of inauthenticity. And we're going to get into that in future content as well. But we share so much about ourselves that it's actually we're throwing, sort of wanting to put judgment out of ourselves like way out there, and could actually go to more of the hustle to be seen, to be heard, and to belong. If you've got two, three, four, or five people, then that's the sweet spot, I feel. And that is what we need through life. Two, three, four, five people who we know will answer the call, answer our phone calls, our 2 a.m. calls, being arrested or whatever it is that makes us call at 2 a.m. That they will answer that, and we will answer their call as well. So if you've got two, three, four, or five people, then you're doing awesomely at life. You're winning at life. And as I wrap this up, I want to again invite you, if you want to, if you want to explore this further with me and with others, with other gay men, please come and join us in the Loneliness Guide Premium Subscriber Lounge on Facebook, and let's have a chat about this. I'd love to have a chat with you. Or if you'd like, send me a comment on YouTube or on send me an email to connect@thelonelinessguy.com, or send me a message on Facebook or a DM or whatever it is. However you want to get in touch with me, I'm kind of everywhere. But before we wrap up, I want to say this and ask you to reflect on this. The whole topic of friendship can be quite triggering. It's deeply based in emotion because it is so important to us humans. It is a vital source of connection, vital source of the connection that we get, particularly from Pillar 2, connection to others. It's really, it's so vital. But in reflecting, please avoid playing with other people's emotions and subjecting those in your life to survivor-style friendship tests. This isn't primary school. This isn't, I will be your friend, or you would be my friend if you did this. It's not that kind of stuff that I'm asking you to reflect on. Because generally speaking, that the connection that we want, that we need as humans through friendship, happens when we start to change within ourselves and put our authentic selves out into the world. And sometimes that means that old friends go into the background, but create space for new people to come into our lives, people who see us, who hear us, and with whom we feel that we belong. So please resist the temptation to subject close friends to survivor style tests of endurance to prove their friendship and their worth to you. People don't respond well to that. But perhaps it's time to have a conversation with them. And my work is, as I'm being told by you, my awesome audience, is awesome to start these conversations. It's a very good entree into having these conversations about things that really matter about you, those most important to you and to your communities, and how you show up with them, in them, I should say. All right, this has been a really long and I hope soul-nourishing chat. Thank you so much for having coffee with me today. And until next time, when we'll be talking about the gift of loneliness as we come up to Christmas 2020, I want to say thank you again for joining me. And until next time, be awesome, be kind, stay safe, and I'll speak to you next time.